Hey guys, and welcome back to another banger on this channel. Before we get started, I'd like to give a huge thank you to all the new subscribers and to all of you for watching this. Anyway, today's video will be split into two, with the first half being about breeding competitive Pokemon and all the aspects and factors that surround that and everything you need to know, and with the second half being about training competitive Pokemon and once again, all the aspects and factors that surround that. Anyway, without any further ado, let's get right into it. Before you even think about going into a competitive match or breeding a Pokemon, you should have a plan for your team, including the specific stats and factors they might need to have for this plan/strategy to work. These things are the main purposes and goals in breeding competitive Pokemon. So basically, you want to breed the correct IVs, natures, abilities, and sometimes even moves or egg moves on a Pokemon. These stats, natures, and abilities should reflect a Pokemon's statistical advantages and should complement them like I have talked about in previous videos. You should always play to your strengths and advantages to get the maximum power and effort out of a Pokemon. Now that I've discussed what we are trying to achieve through breeding, you now need to know how to effectively breed those things, and there are specific items that can help do that. The main 4 items most breeders use or have when breeding competitively include the Destiny Knot, the Everstone, the Oval Charm, and the Shiny Charm. I will go over the Shiny Charm and the Oval Charm first, as they are the quickest to explain. So basically, the Oval Charm helps to increase the rate at which an egg will be found by the breeder ladies, which helps to increase the Pokemon you hatch quicker, and it also increases the odds of you getting the exact Pokemon you want, as there are simply more Pokemon. The Shiny Charm isn't that relevant to competitive breeding in this video, but I thought I would add its use in as it still relates to breeding. The Shiny Charm basically increases the chance of you hatching or encountering a Shiny. If you want a cool Pokemon to play competitive with, a Shiny is the way to go, as they have cool alternate colors and are very rare. Now, both these items can be obtained by going to the Chichester Hotel and speaking to a few people that I'll show on screen. And as a quick note, if the Oval Charm still doesn't help you hatch eggs quick enough, you can maximize your hatch rate by using a Flame Body and or Magma Armor Pokemon, which, because of their unique abilities, helps to hatch eggs faster if the eggs are next to them in the party. To add on to that as well, it's a good idea when breeding to only have the one Flame Body or Magma Armor Pokemon in your party to maximize room for other eggs. Back onto topic now is the Everstone. The Everstone does 2 things, the first being that if it is held by a Pokemon, that Pokemon's offspring will always have its nature, which is very handy if you want to breed a specific natured Pokemon. The second thing it does is that it passes on the species' current regional form, no matter the region it is bred in. Now onto the final item, the Destiny Knot, which is very effective and useful in breeding, as it allows for the offspring of a Pokemon to always have 5 stats taken from both parents. This is a huge help, as normal offspring usually only take 3 stats from the parents and the rest are randomized. This is a huge help if you want to breed down specific stats from both parents, such as perfect IVs, as it increases the chances that the offspring will have those perfect stats bred down. For effective breeding, you need to give the Destiny Knot to the female Pokemon, or in the case of Ditto breeding, the non-Ditto Pokemon, to carry down the stats from both parents. Then give the Everstone to the male or the Dittos so that natures can be carried down correctly. Another helpful thing to do in breeding is to have the Judge function, so you can compare and look at a Pokemon's IVs. The Judge function can be obtained from the Battle Tower after you've reached the Pokeball tier in its competitive NPC battles. This allows for you to check an offspring's IVs and see if they are able to fit your plan's criteria. When breeding, an important thing to consider is Dittos. Dittos are very useful as they can breed with any Pokemon of any gender. This makes them extremely helpful for competitive breeding, as they can breed with pretty much anything from any egg group apart from baby Pokemon and most legendaries. You generally want to have a 6 IV Ditto to breed equipped with a Destiny Knot and the other Pokemon with the Everstone, so that these stats can be carried down. To make sure you're breeding the right natures with your Dittos, it is also very handy to have one Ditto of every nature, so you can select which nature you want beforehand. Another thing that is really cool and definitely well worth it is the Masuda method. The Masuda method is named after Junichi Masuda, who's one of the directors of the Pokemon games after he programmed the method into Diamond and Pearl. This method revolves around getting a foreign Pokemon and breeding it with another Pokemon for increased shiny chances. Basically, after all that, the idea with Dittos is to get a Ditto that has really good IVs, stats, and is from a foreign language other than your own, and breed it with another Pokemon with both the Destiny Knot and the Everstone, so natures and 5 out of the 12 IVs are carried down from both parents. By doing these things, you are increasing the chance of getting a great competitive Pokemon with fantastic stats and a great nature, and it might even be shiny. If you want further information on how to get the perfect Ditto, which is also foreign, please check out Austin John Play's amazing video on it, which I'll link in the description below. Before we get started on what to do when breeding and what to look out for, I'd like to point out a few little things that are very important to set up and take note of before breeding. The The first thing being that if you aren't planning on breeding with Dittos, you technically need to do the exact same thing with the female Pokemon of that species that you want to breed competitively with another Pokemon that is of the same egg group as it. Now you may have some questions about this, one of them being what egg groups are and why a female. I'll first answer the female question. Whatever Pokemon you want to breed, you always want that same species of Pokemon to be the female partner, as the egg is always the same species as the female, or the species that isn't the Ditto. Now on to the egg groups question. Egg groups are basically a set of groups that define which Pokemon can breed with each other, as to breed without Dittos, Pokemon must be of the same egg group. For example, there are multiple egg groups with every known Pokemon being split across all of them. Some other things to take note of is that baby Pokemon and legendaries cannot breed at all, for the obvious answer is that babies can't breed because they're a baby, and legendaries can't breed because that would make it way too easy to get infinite legends. Some other things that you have to be careful about are that some Pokemon can only have one gender and therefore have to breed with a Ditto or have to breed with specific gender Pokemon. You also cannot breed the Gigantamax factor through Pokemon, although you can get the Gigantamax factor on a non-Gigantamax Pokemon through other ways that I'll talk about later. Now that we've gone through all of those things, I will now talk about what to actually do and expect when breeding. The first and most obvious thing is to find a daycare. In Sword and Shield, there are 2 daycare locations, the first being on the route to the right of Turffield, near the bridge, and the breeding center in the middle of the wild area. Once you've found a daycare, you then need to put in the 2 Pokemon that you want to breed together, making sure they meet all the criteria you want and that of which we talked about before, such as the right stats, natures, and abilities, and that they have the Destiny Knot and Everstone equipped. The idea now that you have them in the daycare is to start hatching eggs and keep hatching them till you get the right Pokemon. Some tips while breeding is that every time the daycare has an egg, the lady out the front will cross her arms and you have to keep walking and running until she does. On top of that, every egg and species have a specific number of steps until they hatch. I recommend searching these up or using Cerebi to check. When breeding, there are also a number of things to look out for and things that can be carried down from parent to egg. The first of which is abilities. Each Pokemon species, like I've said in previous videos, has a set couple of abilities that are randomly generated and passed down when breeding. This goes for hidden abilities as well, as they can randomly be bred or carried down through eggs and breeding, although they can also be found through raid dens in Sword and Shield. If you're breeding for hidden abilities, there is a 50% chance they'll be bred down from the female or non-Ditto Pokemon to the egg. This is very important to remember if you have a specific plan or ability in mind. The next thing that can be carried down when breeding is egg moves. Egg moves cannot be randomly bred from an egg, and there are only 3 possible ways to obtain them on a Pokemon. The first of which is to obtain them through a Yellow Aura Pokemon. Yellow Aura Pokemon, or otherwise known as Brilliant Pokemon, are special Pokemon that appear randomly throughout the game and generally have great stats and abilities and can often carry exclusive moves for that species known as egg moves. These moves cannot be obtained any other way for that species unless you breed them down. The second way to get egg moves is to find them on another species. What I mean by this is that egg moves are only exclusive moves for that specific species and can actually be found quite commonly on other species, so what you can do is find another species that has that specific egg move and breed it with your other Pokemon species that you want to competitively breed, and there is a 25% chance that that move will be carried down to the egg and to the species that you want the egg move on. By the way, this is the same for all other moves that you may want to breed down. Now the third and final way to get egg moves on a Pokemon follows along the same lines of that last one, in the sense that you can transfer moves from one Pokemon to another. This works by that if your Pokemon you want your eggs moves on has one free move space, then you can take it to the daycare and put it in with another Pokemon that already has that move, whether it be an egg move for it or not. Then after a while there is a chance that the Pokemon will transfer its moves to the open move slot and learn the egg move. Final few tips and tricks to know are that Pokeballs are carried down when breeding from the male or non-Ditto Pokemon. This means that whatever that Pokemon was caught in, the offspring of it will have the same Pokeball. This can lead to cool ways to have different Pokemon in matching or different Pokeballs and adds a sense of style and individuality to a Pokemon. Also, a slight note to help you complete your Pokedex is that if you want to breed baby Pokemon, you need to get items known as incenses, of which there are multiple types that correlate to the different species, which if held by that species can allow baby Pokemon to be bred, otherwise some can be found naturally but rarely in the environment. To wrap up breeding, the basic idea is that you have a set plan about what you want to breed on a Pokemon, such as stats, natures, abilities, and etc. And you set up the parents with those things and then breed down those traits to one Pokemon. You can use items such as the Destiny Knot and the Everstone to help ensure the transferal of those traits, and you can use Dittos and egg groups to make sure you breed the right species of Pokemon. You need to think about egg moves and a Pokemon's move sets and how you will use that Pokemon on your team. Finally, you need to think and plan out how to carry out this plan and get the Pokemon you need for your team. I've covered breeding, and now I'll talk about training. The first thing that I'll discuss is stats and how to train them, and then I'll go on to talk about other things such as abilities, natures, moves, etc. To start off, I talked about stats in my first Pokemon video, and a lot of that information and knowledge carries over to this as well, as you still have your IVs and EVs, although BST doesn't matter as much in this sense, as it can't be changed or altered as it is the species' general baseline. Although I'll not go over what these stats are or what to use them for, and will only go over to how to train and alter them. Firstly, let's talk about IVs, bottle caps, and hyper training. Bottle caps are a very rare item that can be found in Pokemon Sword and Shield and can be used to hyper train your Pokemon. What this means is that for every bottle cap you use, you can choose what IV to max out and make perfect. You can also get gold bottle caps, which can hyper train all IVs on a Pokemon and make them all perfect. Although this is a permanent change and cannot be reversed, and the bottle caps cannot lower IVs. As such, the use of bottle caps and hyper training should only be used as a backup method to perfect individual traits of a Pokemon, if they are maybe missing one or two integral IVs. There is a slight disclaimer here in the fact that to hyper train your Pokemon, they need to be at level 100 first. I don't know why it is, it's just the way it is. Now on to EVs. EVs are a lot more versatile and easier to train and use than IVs, and for good reasons. And I'll first discuss what items can be used to train EVs. The first couple of items to take note of are berries and vitamins. Berries are very important as certain ones can be used to lower certain stats while boosting others. This is useful if you want to transfer EVs from one not so useful stat to another. Vitamins, on the other hand, also train EVs in a different sense, as they only boost up and use EVs in specific stats. For example, a protein will put 10 EVs into the attack stat. Other items that can be used to EV train a Pokemon include the Wings set. This is a set of items that are a lot like vitamins, and each boost a certain stat, except these ones are a lot more affordable and can be found abundantly across the Pokemon world. There are two other ways to train EVs without using items. The first is battling wild Pokemon. Each wild Pokemon that you battle has a specific EV stat that it awards 1 EV to every time you defeat it, meaning after 4 battles, your EV stat will go up by 1. The other way to EV train is Pokejobs, which were just implemented in the recent Sword and Shield games. Now, Pokejobs update every day, and each job targets a specific EV. You can send your Pokemon on these jobs, and every hour they will gain 4 EVs, meaning 1 EV stat, and over the course of the 24 hours, 96 EVs and 24 stat points. This is by far the fastest and best way to EV train without items and is incredibly efficient. Now, in the last two circumstances where we talked about battling and Pokejobs, the EVs that you receive during this are called your EV yield. With certain circumstances such as Pokerus and the power items, these EV yields from both battles and jobs can be increased. I'll start off by explaining Pokerus. Pokerus is an extremely, and I mean extremely rare disease or infection that can be caught from a traded or wild Pokemon, and if it infects your Pokemon, then their EV yield will be doubled for a certain amount of time until the Pokemon expels the virus. Now, as I said before, this is an extremely rare disease that most average players will never encounter in their life, as the odds are 3 in 65,536, which is almost 6 times the odds of finding a full odds shiny Pokemon. Now, I have very luckily encountered this phenomenon in my adventures. Out of the two, one was very much indeed legitimate in my Pokemon Moon, when my entire team caught it from some unknown wild Pokemon that I cannot remember what species it was. And the other and final encounter with Pokéross was in Pokemon Sword when I got traded to Type Null through the Pokemon Home GTS. Now, I definitely don't know if this is legitimate, as I did not personally catch it, but apart from having Pokéross, it does not have any other traits of being a hacked Pokemon that I've been able to identify. Now, I know that got a bit off track, but I just thought I would share my experiences. But anyway, back on track now. The power items are another set of items which, when equipped, add 8 extra EVs to the EV yield for a certain stat on a Pokemon. For example, the Power Bracer adds plus 8 EVs in attack for every battle a Pokemon receives an attack EV in. Now, that just about wraps up EV training, so I'll now go into other traits of a Pokemon that can be trained, such as natures, abilities, moves, etc. Before we get into all that goodness though, I thought I would just talk about items for a second, and when and where to use them. Because you should only ever really use items for rare Pokemon that you can't really find that often, such as a shiny Pokemon or a really great competitive Pokemon, which is only flawed in 1 or 2 stats, and just needs adjustment in those. Otherwise, you should just breed for those traits and be meticulous and strategic when doing it, as to get what you want. Now, this is really relevant and adds on to what I said about bottle caps being a backup plan, as most items that enhance a Pokemon such as mints and bottle caps, their effects cannot be carried down in breeding like normally naturally acquired stats would. Now back onto topic, and seeing as I mentioned mints before, I thought I would talk about them. Seeing that I've talked about natures in other videos, I'll not go too in depth on them and just say that every mint is specialized in one nature, for example bold or jolly mints, and when used change the current nature of a Pokemon to that specialized nature. Abilities also work in similar ways, and I'm pretty sure in previous videos I would have talked about ability capsules and ability patches. Ability capsules have the amazing ability to change a Pokemon's ability to the alternate ability or one of the alternate abilities a species might have. This could be used to help acquire a more useful competitive ability if your Pokemon doesn't already have the ideal ability. Now, ability patches work in much the same way and have the ability to change one of a species' normal abilities to its hidden ability variant. This could also be very useful as hidden abilities are often very ideal and useful and competitive. These items can also work backwards as well, with the ability capsules giving the player the ability to change hidden abilities to normal abilities. Now for the final few things I'll talk about in this video that can be trained are moves, evolution, levels, and Dynamax levels, and they'll be pretty rapid fire as they are very similar in terms of training and are really just slight adjustments to the Pokemon. So let's start off with moves. Now I have talked about moves in previous videos, and basically they are the form in which Pokemon deal damage to each other, and one Pokemon can only have 4 moves at any one time. And say you wanted to train that Pokemon to have specific moves, and you wanted to learn, forget, or relearn moves, there are people called move deleters, move tutors, and move relearners. These people are often situated across the region, but I'll show their locations on screen. But basically a move relearner helps a Pokemon remember moves it had forgotten in the past when it was replaced by other moves. Move tutors often help Pokemon learn new and powerful moves that they couldn't learn before. And finally, move deleters delete and help Pokemon forget unwanted or unnecessary moves. Basically, these people all help you to customize and move around a Pokemon's moveset to your needs and wants. On to levels. Levels can be increased in a number of ways and only increased. The first way is by natural progression, in which you need to win battles and battle wild Pokemon to gain EXP to level up, or alternately, you can use rare candies and EXP candies to level up your Pokemon for you. Now, evolution I have talked about in a previous video and is basically the next form a Pokemon takes, which can mean a number of things which I talked about in that video, and basically some evolutions you can choose when to do and train Pokemon when to evolve by evolution items, which when used on a Pokemon and only if that Pokemon is in line with that item's specifications, will help them to evolve upon use. These include most commonly evolution stones, but also include other items. Now finally, and I believe I did mention this in the last video, but Dynamax levels are basically how powerful a Pokemon can become during the Dynamax phenomenon, and to increase the Dynamax level you can use Dynamax candies to increase the level one at a time with each candy use. And to add on to that thought about Dynamaxing, I mentioned earlier in the video that it is possible to get the Gigantamax factor on any Pokemon that species can Gmax by feeding them the max soup on the Isle of Armor, but I shall leave it at that. Anyway, that is basically the end of most of the things you need to know when training Pokemon, although to wrap up, there are some basic tips and tricks I thought that I would share with you when training a Pokemon. The first of which being is that oftenly a Pokemon only needs to specialize in 5 specific stats that they themselves or their species is good at and use that advantage to the max. This means that all other stats generally aren't very useful and can be ignored. These stats can also intentionally be ignored for reasons such as a role on a team, such as a weather setter, which intentionally has bad speed so it can set up its weather last so that its weather choice is the final one made, therefore making it the weather in effect. Another trick is to use the Raid Den glitch, which is a very simple exploit in the main Sword and Shield games that can be used to time travel to future days to speed up the processes of events such as Raid Den changes and of course Pokejobs. Now I don't really have time to show you how to do that in this video, and I instead suggest you go take a look at other YouTubers' videos on it, such as Austin John Plays as One. Now one more thing to take notice of is in the summary screen where you can look at a Pokemon's EVs. Just a quick tip is that to find that menu, press X when looking at a Pokemon stat spread to see its EVs and their arrangement, which really helps you to plan out and strategize how you may want to train that Pokemon. Also, when looking at the stat spread, if the stats are dark yellow, there is still training to be done, and all EVs haven't been fully utilized. And if the spread is light blue, then the EV spread is full and no more EVs can be added to the spread. Finally, the last thing to do is just use Cerebi to find any bits of information or answers that you might need to train a specific Pokemon team of your own. Now I know this video is probably very long, and most of the other videos are probably very long as well. So if you would like me to, after the end of this year, because I currently don't have the time to do it now, as I have other things that are more important and need to be done before this, I could cut up all my previous YouTube videos into bite-sized chunks explaining small certain aspects of the Pokemon and competitive world, just so they are more manageable to watch and understand. But like I said, I won't be able to do that now really until after this year in the summer holidays. So if you would like that, please comment down below and tell me. Anyway, that is it for today, guys. So if you guys could like, comment, subscribe, and turn notifications on, that would be a huge help to the channel. And I'd actually like to give a huge thanks to A-Drive, Austin John Plays, Pity Winner, and GameSpot as they use their resources to research this video today. Now I'll be linking all those images and sources I used in the description below, so please go check them out as they just great resources and definitely worth a try. Now, as I said in the video, if you guys have any questions or need any information on just anything Pokemon related, please go to Cerebi.net and Pokemon Database as they are just great resources, and I've used them plenty of times myself for any Pokemon information. Now guys, just remember, keep on Pokemoning until next week when we'll be looking into current VGC rules and current VGC metagame strategies. Anyway, that is it for today, guys, so see you next time. Bye!